All right. Welcome everybody to another CNC Q A Podcast. Hope you all are doing well tonight. This is episode 35 and going to be talking about building DIY type machines. So let me bring the rest of my crew in here with a click of the button. And I saw we had a question from Mark too. I want to get to that right away too. So while I got this other thing up over here, let me go ahead and bring up his question. And then let me get ready to share my screen. Right. What is all this nonsense? Okay, let me do that. I think that'll work. All right, we're gonna try this and see if this works. All right, Mark, if his question is regarding the Nemo 7-inch offline controller, is there a button already programmed or a custom macro to go back to a user-defined origin, not the 00 home button? Okay, what I'm showing here is episode number 1 of the CNC Q A Podcast. And it's when I went to check this, I can pretty much read it. It might be a little difficult to read, but if you look right here, you can see my mouse moving around on the screen. This third, let's see, I think that's the third one down. Oh, no, it's the second one down. It says G0, X0, Y0. And that's the button you're looking for. And you can see just to the right, you can edit these to say whatever you want. But if you home the machine and it's at home at the machine 0, and then you jog it to the center, you can see how I've got it in the center of that workpiece there. And then I hit 0 out the X and Y and the Z. You can see them all 0 over here. So now that's my work coordinates. So if I were to move it somewhere else or even hit the home button and it goes back to home, all I have to do is hit that button that's number 2 there. It says G0, X0, Y0, and it should go back to the last place where you set work coordinates. And that's not that G0, X0, Y0. That is not the home 0. That is where you set your last work coordinates. So, like I said, that's episode 1 of the CNC podcast. You may not have caught that one, but I will, let me see here. I will get the link and put it right here in the chat. And you can go right to it. So that is the...
So Dave, do you know if the when you do home it, is that the G53 0 point? Because typically when you home a machine, or at least in Gerbil, you home the machine, it's the G53, and then the first time you set your zeros, they default to G54.
Right.
I don't know if that does that.
Well, let's see. I see he's got another comment here. Let me make sure I'm... He says, I did try that and it didn't seem to work. I will try again. Maybe I did something wrong. Yeah, just home your machine and let it come back to the home position. Then jog it somewhere to the center of the machine, any place, and then 0 the X, Y, and the Z. Well, you don't really have to do the Z because it's not that button doesn't say anything about the Z. And then once you zero that, you've now set your work coordinates where you're going to start a carve in the middle of the machine. Then you can go move it somewhere else, or you can hit the home button again or whatever. And then when it gets back home, you should be able to hit that button that says G0, X0, Y0, and it's talking about the 0 for the work coordinate. So it should go right back to the center of the screen or wherever you set it, right there. And again, those you can edit those as well. So if for some reason, I know they've I think updated the firmware probably a couple of times since I last used mine. So if for some reason that isn't working, another thing you could do is home the machine, and it'll come up to the left front corner there, and that'll be the machine home position. Then let's say you move it to right in the center of the machine. I don't know. Well, let's just say I don't know which one you're talking about, a 50/40 or a 60/40, but let's say we're talking about the 60/40. So you could move it 300 millimeters on the X, 200 millimeters on the Y, and now you're right smack in the middle of the working area. So if you zero out those coordinates, you can that will be your work coordinates. But if you want to make sure you know how to get back to that position, you can always write down those coordinates and edit that one. Well, any of those buttons, and you could edit it and put G0, X, 300, Y, 200, and save a button like that, and then that way you'll always be able to get back to that spot. Okay, so he's got 50/40. Okay, well halfway would then be 250 by 200. So we can do it in the center.
I like how he says that he was blocked because he didn't have an avatar.
Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully that'll help answer your question, and you might find some more because I'm sure in that video, I'm sure I demonstrate that part because that's what that whole first episode of the podcast was about, was showing off, because I had just gotten that thing and had just started to play around with it. But and again, like I said, I know they probably had at least 2 or 3 firmware updates since I last used mine. So
Sweet.
okay, all right. A little bit of CNC news before. Well, let me go around the horn here and see what everybody's doing. Ryan, I know what you've been up to, but go ahead and share with the folks. I think I know what you've been up to.
Nothing. Facebook Marketplace.
Uh-oh. Okay. All right.
Find another golf cart? What?
No. It's worse. Pressure washers.
Oh, okay. All right.
Anyway.
All right. Well, we won't go into that too deep. So as soon as you said Facebook Marketplace, I knew we were in trouble.
Oh yeah. It gets ugly quick. Oh man. But anyway, we released the Ranger CNC. So on Saturday we released that and put out a couple of videos, an introduction video and the first video of the build series on it, and pretty awesome. Was really happy with it, and we're off and running. So
now, have you already got? I know you shot video along the way as you were doing this thing. Have you already got all of the videos edited, ready to publish, or just?
No, I've been trying to edit them. It's the worst part of all of it is trying to edit stuff. So
yeah.
I've been trying to edit them down, and so they need to be just finished up and
Okay. Okay.
continually put on.
So do you have a timeline to release them, like one a week or something like that, or are you just going to just
I'm
try
going
to
to
get
try to
them
do
done, dump them all, or what?
well. I'm trying to do 2 of them a week. I was originally wanting to do the one for today and then do one on Saturday, but uh, I as I was editing the second video, I realized I had deleted some a few bits of information, so I have to. Future Ryan has to go jump back in and fill in some
Yeah.
blanks.
Yeah.
So it just had. I'm going to try to get that done tomorrow. Maybe I'll put it out tomorrow and then Saturday or something like that. So we're trying to get there. But yeah, I did get in the mail David Clackley from the Clack Shack. He's making my serial number plates for me. And so I got the first batch of them in. So there's the one that'll go on my machine, which is 001. And so I got the first batch of these. So the people will get these when they've completed their build. And, post a little video of it moving around or something. And that's
All
how
right.
the serial numbers will shoot.
Yeah, those things look awesome. All right, now
Yeah.
I don't want to put any pressure on you, dude. I know you've had a lot of pressure on you trying to get this thing wrapped up so you can release it. I know you've been working really hard on this, but I got a question for you. When will we see a video of the thing running? Like
Well,
a
that was the other
project
thing.
video or something like that.
Yeah, probably next week is when I'll have that
Okay.
out.
Okay. Good.
Something.
Good. Because I think
Yeah.
that's what's really going to get things kickstarted for you. Is everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, the introduction and all is great, but when people are looking
Yeah,
at
you need
CNCs,
project
they want
videos.
to see what it'll do. So
Yeah.
I know I do.
Yeah. It's been a little bit slowed because of my wife's kidney stones and
Right.
all that. So it's been kind of throwing me a little bit sideways.
Yeah. Well, like I
I
said,
think
no
maybe
pressure.
the Facebook Marketplace may be hurting a little bit too. Just saying.
Not really. I mean, it was a quick trip.
All right.
I'm
Let's.
hoping it buys more parts. Is what the goal is.
All right. Well, let's move on.
Mr.
Then.
Corliss.
Bob, what you been up to?
Well, I've been working on a new project that has nothing to do with CNC, although I wish I had one together so I could do CNC, but I still got to get that KL8 finished so that I can make some parts. But I was working on the lathe and got a nice part made up. So
Okay. All right. Good deal. Mr. Corliss, what have you got to say for yourself today?
Well, I got my birdhouse up in the tree, but there's no residents yet. I'm about ready to 3D print a for rent sign and stick on it.
there you go.
All right.
It's up in the tree. So, and I also go to Marketplace quite often, but people in Michigan think that used stuff on Marketplace costs more than if you just went and bought new. So I don't buy too much stuff off Marketplace.
Well, it may depend on your area. Apparently, Maryland's got a good Facebook Marketplace because Ryan has had good success there. Now, around here, I see people post stuff, and sometimes I even comment myself, but a lot of times you see comments where they'll put a link and they'll go, "Here it is on Amazon for about half what you're asking." It's some of these people around here. I don't know what they're thinking. But I don't do a whole lot of Facebook Marketplace. Oh yeah, what is that Ryobi stuff?
All Ryobi power washers of various sizes.
Wow.
So you got to
Are
buy them
those,
all.
Are those the 60 volt or 40 volt?
There's some of them are the 40 volt, and but the other ones are all electric ones. So varying
okay.
sizes from 2,500 psi down to like 1,800 psi. There's a lot of them.
Okay.
That's hey, I don't drink very often. I don't party. Facebook Marketplace is my deal.
Well, yeah, everybody's got to have a vice. Something yours happens to be Facebook
Yeah.
Marketplace, I guess.
My wife has plants, so I'm a Facebook Marketplace hound.
Yeah. By the way, I saw the picture of the little cactus things you printed out that Macy Makes did. Those turned out good.
Yeah, those are pretty awesome. They turned out really neat. I'd like to modify that design a little bit to put some magnets into it so that it'll would stay closed. Because it's a 2-piece little. Oh, there's one right there. Hold on a second.
While he's doing that, Dave, I see Mark Boyd said that he tried that and it worked.
There it is.
Okay.
Guy.
Good deal.
That did come out good.
It comes up off. It's a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the first one that I did, and I ran out of filament right there, and so it even though it's the same color, it looks a little different. So I had to print 2 other ones out, but I figured I'd keep this one for in here. But I'd like to put some little nubs inside here to put some magnets on so that this will just click right in.
There you go.
But
yeah, I thought those looked pretty cool. I when I was watching your thing and you said, yeah, you need to go get that file now because I think she was just going to have it free for 24 hours or something like that, and I forgot to go get it. So
I think it's still available though.
Okay, well maybe I'll go check it out. And
yeah, I was looking at some of her other stuff that she has on there, and so the first thing I clicked on was to that little cactus guy, but so it may be still on there.
All right. Well, before we get started talking about our topic tonight, I had a little bit of CNC news that I just caught by accident. Just happened to look on Instagram, and the first thing that popped in my feed was some guy, and I don't think he was from Avid. I think he was from another company, and I should have wrote down the name because I've forgotten what it is. But as I understand it, they're going to be working with Avid now, and Avid is going to start offering servo motors.
Yay!
With their CNCs. So
interesting.
And I'll have to go back, or if you want to go check Instagram, put in Avid, that'd probably be their latest post. But I forget that it started with an S, but I can't remember, or maybe it was a T. I don't know. I can't trust my memory for nothing. But anyway,
that's awesome.
I thought that was pretty cool that they're with all the competition that's going on right now, I guess maybe they said, hey, we got to do something to step up our game.
Well, I think also the servo motors are coming down, and now people are doing the drivers that are still step direction. So you can still use your Mach 3 or 4 interface or your Masso or even in gerbil, right? I mean, servo motors just offer so much of an advantage from my vantage. I mean, from when I look at it, I mean, the torque band is pretty much constant for, higher speeds than you could ever do with a stepper motor.
Yeah, Joey, Technic Servo is the name of the company. And in fact, I think the guy that's doing the thing on Instagram, I think that's who he's with. Was talking about that. Thank you, Joey.
I thought you were going to say something about open builds.
Well, I did hear some news about those, and go ahead and share with our audience what you've heard.
Open Builds put out a post. I think it was this morning or yesterday, and they're shutting down after 12 years, 14 years, something like that. Yeah. So they got their whole site on sale for 40% off right now. whatever's on there.
Wow. Now they are the ones with the Build Bonics, right? Or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
The black box, I think, is what it was
they
called.
just have all the parts that you can buy and build your own, however you want to build it, right?
Yeah. I think the controller was probably already sold out. I think I saw that it was not available, but they have extrusion out the wazoo, stuff like that. That was on there still, at least this morning. So not bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd heard. I can't remember where I saw it, but I probably on Facebook. I don't know, but I saw something about how they're talking about they were going to go out of business.
Yeah, it says after 12 unforgettable years, Open Builds is going out of business.
They had pretty good prices too, if I remember right.
Yeah, it wasn't bad
for the person that wanted to build their own.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of one of the topics I wanted to talk about tonight. We'll kind of see where it takes us. I mentioned, in my little post there is, do you have what it takes to build your own CNC? Because a lot of people, I think it's some kind of voodoo stuff or whatever. And I've said since day one, when I kept getting a bunch of crap from people that would see me use this machine right back here to do even a little portion of a project in a YouTube video. I always got a bunch of crap about it, like, oh, that's not real woodworking, and and then finally just one day I said, hey, I'm tired of hearing it, you trolls. If you want to learn how to build one, I'll show you. It's not rocket science. It's really not. And I still believe that. Now, Lord knows there's a lot of machines available that that are much easier to put together. Like, for example, the 150 comes in just a few boxes, and it's basically 3 big parts, and now maybe a 4th box with the Masso G Touch in it, G3 Touch or whatever. But so many of the other machine manufacturers, it seems like that's what they're trying to go to. It's like, well, we got to make this where it's as easy as possible for them to put this thing together. So they kind of fasten a few bolts and then plug in the little plugs and stuff like that, and off they go. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's your style. But I have always thought that, and have really a lot more respect for the folks that build their own. And it's regardless of whether they, when I say build their own, they go all out and do the design, and everything, the fabrication and everything, or they just buy one like a kit, like Ryan's Ranger CNC, something like that. And where a lot of the thinking is done for them, some of the drawings are done for them. So, but they still have to put more of their machine together than just slapping some big, what I mean, the 2 X rails or Y rails, and then the X rail on top, and boom, you're done. I think those kind of people that put in the, I like to call it sweat equity, they know the machine much, much better and know how to resolve any kind of little problem that might come up, because they're the ones that put every last screw in it. So, Bob, I know you probably got some thoughts on this. What do you think about that?
Oh, for sure. I think, one of the, I think attraction for Bob CNC was not how many screws you had to put in, because it was a lot, but
Yeah.
the people that
It was.
like building it their own because they got to they got to see how it worked and they weren't afraid of it, right? If you get something that's pre-made and the first time it does something you don't want it to do, then you don't know where to go. But if you've you had to wire it and understand that the in stops or home switches where they do and why they do what they do, then pretty soon it's just easier to become I don't want to say an expert, but it's just familiar enough to where you're not afraid of it. I mean, that's the bottom line, right? If you buy a off the shelf pre-made, come in and have the tech people set it up for you, you know how to run it. But if it breaks, you got to call the tech people. But if you're building your own, then you are the tech person, right? So you just go fix it.
Right. Well, I think, and this is just my 2 cents worth. I think a lot of people might want to build their own, but if they're like me, of course, I'm not smart enough to not do it. I went ahead and did it anyway. But if you're not, you're mechanically inclined, and you think, well, I don't have any problem fabricating the parts or figuring out how to put this thing together. But when it comes to getting the controller and stuff like that, how to make it go, and that's why I think that's probably why a lot of people will kind of shy away from building their own, is because they don't know enough about the electronics and how that works. But that's why when I first started with the machines that I sold, I knew there was people that they just wanted to get it together as easy as possible and plug it in and go. So I found that plug and play kit from Xylotex that I used for years, and although that was not the greatest kit, it worked, and in fact, that one I got from that old Sidewinder like this that I picked up from Melinda the other day, she was still running it on that Xylotex box. That was probably at least a decade old or older. But
well, don't you have videos that you've done over the years about, this is a stepper motor, this is how you hook it up, this is Mach 3, this is how you configure it?
I do. I have, I have my demo board sitting right over there. And that's one reason why I created that, to show folks that, hey, even a knucklehead like me that doesn't really know anything about electronics other than what I see on YouTube or something like that. But, I always thought that I may not know all this stuff about electronics, but I know a little enough about how to wire a power supply and why you need a power supply to get the DC voltage to the drivers and all that. And all I needed was to find one good drawing where somebody who had wired a machine, and I found that, and I mentioned that YouTube channel the other day. It was My Robert Adams. That's the guy's YouTube channel, My Robert Adams, and he did a video, and he's had a little whiteboard and his pointer, and he was going through and doing all this stuff, and then he offered the drawing that if I remember right, it was color coded with the wire. So once I thought, okay, well, this one goes from here and it's got to go over here to this part of the drive, and then after you really think about it, it all starts kind of clicking and making sense. So I would not shy away at all now from building my own controller. And I think it's kind of funny sometimes when I'm on Facebook, and I think some people think that when they buy a CNC machine, if it has a XYZ brand controller, that's the only thing they can use with that machine. And that's not the case at all. You could throw that controller away and make your own and make the machine work probably better.
I did exactly that with a Bridgeport Series 1. It came with a great big old box that had a whole bunch of stuff in it. I didn't even know what it was. And it was actually a tape drive, right, where you actually sent it a tape. So I just took all of that off down to the stepper motors, and I got some Gecko because they were strong, or could handle the 8 amps, some power supply, and just started from scratch and did a Linux CNC at the time. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, you can almost you could actually take, I don't know that you would want to, but you could probably take a professional machine and convert it into a stepper direction signal stuff.
Yeah. Like you're right. I don't know if you'd want to, but you could. You could do it. I see the chat's just scrolling. Are you watching it for me, Paul? I'm not.
Yeah.
I see it scrolling up.
There's a couple good questions on there. Let me get back.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get queuing those up, and we'll work them in while we're going on this. But yeah, I just like I said, I think people that decide to build their own, like I said, even if it's not their design, they're maybe building it from a kit or something. I just think in the end, they're going to make a better CNC operator, at least quicker than the people that just buy something, and then every time something goes wrong, they don't have a clue what it is. They got to try to get with tech support or something like that. So you really learn a lot putting these things together.
Somebody that's been in our group before, Keith Painter, I believe he bought a Onefinity that had like a broken black box to it or something like that. So he actually runs Mach 3 on his Onefinity. So yeah, you can run whatever you want. And I was wondering, Dave, do you think that some of these companies make it faster to put together because you got to wait 5 months to get them?
That could be. I don't know. Well, see, here's my theory on some of these machines, and I'm not going to single out anybody, but really any of them, like the Onefinity, the Nemo Labs machines, all the Genmitsu machines, the Fox Alien machine, all of these machines where they have to try to design them. First of all, they want to try to make it easy for the consumer to put them together without a whole lot of assembly. They're trying to streamline it, send it in big sub-assemblies, and then that way they can get the machine together quicker. But when they do it that way, now you've got all the wiring maybe pre-run through the channels or the extrusions or whatever, and there's you got stick. But what are they using? They're using little old chintzy plugs, which is the weak link of the whole control system.
Mm-hmm.
I know for a fact that Nemo Labs used to have folks that always had problems with, well, this, my y-axis, one side's moving, the other side isn't. Well, you got to check the connection. It's when you plugged it up, maybe the pin shifted back and now it's not making contact or whatever. I saw that a lot. And I've watched, me, I love my YouTube videos. I have watched a ton of unboxing and assembly videos of all different kinds of machines. Onefinity, Shapeoko, now the damn, I'm drawing a blank. What's the CNC Labs one? The alt mill. Yeah, the alt mill. I don't know why I couldn't think of that name. But just all of them in general. And a lot of times, like I say, they're trying to make it easy, so they're using these plugs, and those things aren't the best. Whereas if you're building your own machine, you don't have to put all those chintzy plugs in there. You can cut out some of the connections, plug connections that have to be made for them to be able to ship it in pieces like that, versus if you're just building the thing from scratch, in the spot where that machine is going to reside, you can just use, you can solder the connections or whatever and have a much better system where you don't have some of these issues pop up. Let me, this thing's, Paul's got one up here. Let's take a look at Ron says, just joining the podcast. Thanks, Dave and crew, for speaking of that kit. Dave, are you able to post the parts list for your original CNC machine? I bought the Imperial wooden kit from you. Okay, now, first of all, when you say original CNC machine, which one are you talking about? Because I have machines from way back you probably never even seen. So if you're talking about the Gatton CNC, there is, if you've got the kit for, let's see, are you able to post the parts list for my original CNC? Yeah, I don't know if you're talking about the Gatton or not. I don't offer the kits anymore, but the plans are still available on the website. And there you get all the detailed drawings and all the other parts lists, like the lead screw. You know, I tell you what, in fact, I've even, in that PDF, if you open it up in Adobe, they're even clickable links where you can click and go to master, and takes you right to the lead screw. There's a couple of things, one being the couplers that Dumpster CNC quit making those. I guess he just retired and he closed up shop. So
That happens.
Yeah, them old guys, you know how they are.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a guy.
But yeah, but really any kind of coupler, like those were nice because Dumpster CNC, he actually, since I was using 1/2x10 5-star Acme threads for the lead screws, he actually had a tap that was an Acme tap, and he tapped it so you could screw it on to the end of the Acme thread and tighten it down. And man, those suckers work great. And of course, the other end you could get with different bore sizes. So if you were using a 1/4 inch, a stepper motor with a 1/4 inch shank, or 3/8 or 5/16 or 10 millimeter, whatever it is, he had a drop down list and you could select it, and those were great. But still, if you go to Amazon, and I don't know, I might have one here. Let me see if I can find one. Well, I don't know where I set it now. But anyway, you can find the on Amazon. Well, let me just search it right here. Yeah, I'm just clicking on this. Yeah, here's one right here. Let me share my screen. These seem to be pretty good. These little flexible kind, they're in 2 pieces. And you can see you've got a big selection there of different bore sizes. So if you're running, see, like here's some bigger ones here. This probably would be more for a NEMA 34. And if you're running a NEMA 23, they've probably got a 6 millimeter or 5 millimeter shaft on those, maybe as big as 8 millimeter.
Yeah, the ones we had for the KL had the 8 millimeter.
Okay. But yeah, you can find a good selection of sizes here. So even if you're building a Gatton CNC and you're going to use that same lead screw, you just need to make sure that the size that goes, like here they're making these probably for ball screws, but you just have to make sure you got a 1/2 inch, which would be 12.7. You might have to look around to find one. Like, see, this one says 6.35, which is a 1/4 to 8 millimeter bore. But this just happened to be the first one I clicked on. But if you look around, you can probably find, or just go straight to Google and put CNC coupler 1/4 inch bore by, and then say what the other size is for the lead screw, 1/2 or whatever. And something will pop up. Somebody makes them.
Good deal.
All right. Paul, did you got another question there?
Yeah.
Any suggestions for better limit switches? I assume they are out there for those building their own machines, the Nemo switches are the weakest part, I feel.
Go to eBay and look up Bob CNC parts, and he's got some really nice
I got a bunch of them.
switches on there.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think on one of the shows a few weeks ago, I was showing the little. Let me see if I can find it here. I got one back.
I got
here
one. I think is this the one you're talking about?
Okay, yeah. You know, these kind like this
Yep.
that I got all these off of Amazon, and none of these are very expensive. Now, of course, these,
SN04-N.
Yeah. So these will detect metal, or if you want to use the little mechanical ones. And I don't know if I must have put them up because I did have them laying right here, but the little mechanical ones that I ended up using on there, they work fine. Now I don't know putting them on an NEMA Labs because they're using those little teeny tiny ones because they've got them tucked away in some hard to reach places. In fact, they're not out in the open where you even see them. You just have to look down in there to see them. So, but just depends on how fancy you want to get. If you want to do the optical ones or whatever we call it, it's not optical, is it? What is it? What do they call them?
Proximity.
Anyway.
Yeah, proximity sensor.
Proximity sensor. So if you want to do something like that, I would always recommend whichever type you get, or if you're shopping on Amazon, make sure you get some that can be wired normally closed. That way there's a connection all the time. And then if you have a wire break or something, it'll just throw up a thing thinking your limit switch is tripped. But if you have them wired normally open, you don't know if there's a wire break until that machine crashes into the over travel. So always try to wire them normally closed. Yeah, Clyde says he makes his own couplings.
That's interesting.
Yeah, you can do that too.
Good deal. So everybody needs
Or
no,
if
Mark.
anybody
It's not.
wa- if
You
an-
would have to rewire.
If anybody wants to buy a whole kit, I know a guy that's right there that'll take care of the problem.
Yeah, if you want to check out the Ranger CNCs, he just released those last Saturday during his Making It Up As We Go podcast. And how do they find it, Ryan? RangerCNC.com, and it'll direct them to where it needs to go.
Yep.
Okay. So go check those out. They're going to be. I don't want to say it's similar to a Gatton CNC because probably the only thing they got in common is they're both plywood machines. But like
at the end of the day, yeah, it was inspired by the Gatton CNC, but then it kind of took on a life of its own.
Yeah. Well, we had that discussion a long time ago when, and I appreciate the nod towards the Gatton CNC, but I'm like, man, just make it your own. Just go crazy, do whatever you want, make it yours.
Yeah.
Don't worry about referencing the old Gatton CNC. It had a good run. And like I said, the plans are still available on the website. They're just not, I just don't cut the kits anymore. So you could still do that, but that would probably be a lot more work than just buying Ryan's kit. So I would probably lean that way. All right, Paul, I saw the chat just going crazy earlier. So did I miss anything else?
Well, let's see here.
Not really.
Okay.
No.
Well, maybe
There's one
everybody's
about
just
saying stepper motors weren't, the link didn't work anymore. And the truth is if you type in CNC stepper motor on eBay or Amazon or Facebook Marketplace, you'll find some.
okay. Well, the link, I would think that link to Stepper Online still works because I'm an affiliate for them. I still get notifications saying somebody used my link to buy something. But that's the go-to place as far as I'm concerned to get.
Yeah, they make good stepper motors for sure.
They make good stepper motors, and plus you can buy, if you, like I said, if you don't really know what you're doing, you can say, well, I'm going to build a machine where I need 4 stepper motors. Well, they'll sell you a 4-axis kit of various torque ratings and all that. But you can also buy it where you get the 4 stepper motors, you get the 4 drivers, and you get however many power supplies they think you need to.
So it's all matched up to be a system that they've done the math for you already. That's a good deal.
And it's not just like one system. They have several different ones depending on how much torque and stuff you're going to need all the time.
There you go, Ryan. There's a question for you.
Oh yeah, Kenneth's asking if I'm looking to offer up just the controller box itself. I really wasn't planning on it because the box itself is just a box. I'm not including any kind of electronics in it. So I guess if somebody wanted to buy the box part of it, they could, but
with the kit, they get the parts list for what they need to do to make it the way you've done.
Right.
Yeah. Or you could have, and there's always those kind of people that, you give them that option that they go, well, I'm gonna make my own controller, and maybe they don't want to do what you've done with yours, and they want the machine, but they want a different way to control it. So, because that was the thing with the Gatton CNC. I pointed them in the direction of Xylotex, but I didn't care whether they used that or not. I mean, if they wanted to, that was the easy way because it was all plug and play. But the people that knew a little something about electronics, they might buy a kit from Steppers Online and make their own thing. And, there was that's the thing about the Gatton CNC. You could probably pick out 12 people that have them, and the controller probably wouldn't be the same on any of them.
Nope. Mine was Raspberry Pi. So
yeah, they just do whatever they wanted.
Oh yeah. Jerry saying, I know she stood on yours, but I rode the last wooden one. There you go. Yeah, in the introductory video, I stand on my gantry.
Seems to be a popular thing to do.
Oh yeah, I sat on it, and then I was like, all right, let's take it up a notch. We'll stand on it.
Yeah.
There was no deflection in
down. What's that, Paul?
There was no deflection in that gantry at all.
No, not even with over 300 pounds on it.
Yeah. I rode my gantry, but I had to pick my feet up so people would know that I'm really putting my weight on it, and not keeping my feet on the table. But all right, let's see. We got anything else over here? I think we're caught up. So what is Jerry saying here? I had the parts to make a next CNC under my bed, $3,000 in aluminum extrusion, and linear bearings was worth moving. Heck yeah. And that's something else. I was going to talk about too is, back when, I mean, you look at this is all formed sheet metal, and it's because I worked in a fabrication shop, and that's what we did. I designed, I sat in front of a computer and worked with SolidWorks and designed sheet metal parts and some machine parts, but mostly uh, different laser cut machine parts that are formed with a press brake and all that stuff. So when I started trying to get myself a CNC, and like I said, there wasn't a whole lot, uh, to choose from way back then. Uh, and what little there was very expensive. So I thought, well, Dave, you're a sheet metal guy. Let's just see what you can come up with. So that's why all my early machines are out of sheet metal. But today, in today's world, they call the 80-20. They call it the erector set for grown-ups or adults, or so. I forget what their slogan is, but something is basically what it is, an erector set. And you don't have to, you can design a machine easily with that stuff, because any size, whether it's, the little 20 stuff that 3D printers are made out of, all the way up to the stuff like the Avid's made out of, you can get all of the files and CAD files, either in a step file, a SolidWorks file, probably Fusion 360. I don't ever think about them because I don't use that stuff, but you can get all of that, put it in your CAD software, or even if you're not sophisticated enough to use CAD software, you're just using sketches, you can still figure out how to put stuff together with that. And they not only have the nice extrusion stuff, but they also have every kind of way to connect that stuff, whether it be the little pop-in, slide-in T-nuts, the roll-in T-nuts, the angled brackets. I mean, you go on their site, and it's just, there's nothing you can't build with that stuff. And for somebody who's wanting to build their own CNC, but don't know how to do sheet metal, or maybe not crazy about doing a wooden machine or something like that, that's the ticket right there, is because you could just, the sky's the limit with that stuff. It's that's a little
You cut it with a
pricey.
chop saw, right?
You could cut it with a chop saw. You know, it just wear a face shield. I'll just tell you that right up front, because those shiny little things, they go flying everywhere. But yeah, use a face shield when you're putting it on your chop saw. As long as you got a good carbide blade on the chop saw, you can cut it. And like I said, that's a good way, because basically, I mean, I don't know. I know I'm old, but there's probably other people on here too that have had an erector set as a kid. Those things were great. And that's kind of like what this 80-20 extrusion stuff is. It's like a big erector set. That's why Avid, I think, has been so successful, is because now there's still a lot of really good engineering in their designs too, especially the rack and pinion and all that stuff. But yeah, it's easy to ship that stuff in boxes. None of the boxes are going to be super heavy, and it's kind of like a Bob CNC. There's a lot of parts and a lot of screws, so it's going to take a minute, but it is easy to get the thing together. And you're going to learn a lot while you're doing it, not just set this down, a couple of bolts, and then plug something in. With the Avid, like when I did mine, I had rack and pinion on the X and the Y, so you had to, and they had, the motor had a little pull, and even 34 motor had a little pulley, and then there was another like an idler pulley type thing, so you had to get the tension right on that. And get the spacing right on the rack and all that. But
I had to make sure that those two Y linear rails were parallel too. You couldn't have one going up, down, or out or in.
yeah,
And
well, they even supplied a really nice, for
those
example, on
big,
the X, there's two linear rails, so they supplied uh, a little block that you put in with a slide-in T-nut. And well, when you're doing the Y, you got one linear rail on each side. So you would take that block and screw it to the top, and then you would take a clamp and pull it up and hold that linear rail up against that block and tighten that down. Then you move that block and you go all the way down so that you knew you got that one all straight. It wasn't going like this. And then you did the same thing on the other side. Well, on the X, there was, of course, two linear rails. So you use that block to do the top one, and you left this lower one a little bit loose until you put that plate on and your linear bearings, and then you let that determine the gap between and make sure you're getting those parallels. So all of it just worked out great. I mean, I'm not going to lie, it was a job. It took
was.
me. I worked a few hours. Of course, it was cold too, and I hate cold, so that was a deterrent for me getting out here when it was cold. But I'd come out here and work a few hours on that and go, okay, the goal today is to get this step done. And I had my computer, and I had their PDF file, and it's probably, I don't know, 150 pages long, the assembly manual. But you go through that, so it took me several days to put that thing together. But man, when you got it together, and of course my buddy Jim come over here, and you might be able to see a little bit right back there. I've got another, he came and wired 240 volt over here on this side of the shop. I got some over there, but he put some over here. And man, when I fired that thing up and hit that home button and it started moving, it was like, oh man, there's no better feeling to me than to have to spend all that time putting all that stuff together, following every little direction, step by step. Don't skip nothing. Don't skip over nothing, because if you do, you're probably going to have to take that back apart. But, and that whole machine was just fantastic. And like I said, after having to, of course, the machine was so great, I never really had any issue with it. But if I had, I would have known how to fix everything, because I put every last bolt in that thing. It's a kit, and when they say kit, they mean every bolt and everything ships loose. There's no pre-assembly, sub-assembly type stuff. Everything's loose.
I think it was actually worse than Bob CNC, just saying. I mean, maybe I'm biased.
Well, you're entitled to be wrong, Bob.
I mean, that Avid took a few days to put together.
It probably did. Now, I will say that now I haven't put together a Bob CNC, but I put together the Bob's Revolution, which was the rotary machine. And yeah, that took a few days too. Yeah. Because there was the biggest thing that I would always tell people, if you get ready to put together a Bob CNC, and by the way, I've misplaced mine, and I'm probably going to have to order another one on Amazon, but you got to have one of those magnet things. It's like a pin, and then you pull it. It's telescoping. You got to have that little magnet thing, because those little bolts and nuts and, oh man, and there's so many of them. So if you got a magnet to stick on, stick that nut on the flat part of the nut, and then hold it down there where you can get the thing in, it didn't go too bad. But man, I would tell everybody, when you get ready to do a Bob CNC, you better get you one of those magnet things, because
Keith
you had one.
Keith always used them. I never did.
Yeah, and what's weird is I got to needing mine I only have one. And I always put that thing in that top left drawer of my toolbox. And I got ready to go get that thing, and I'm like, oh, great. I've set it somewhere and didn't put it back. Now I'll never find it. And I've looked all around and still haven't run across it, but it's here somewhere. I don't know where. Might be in my office now that I think about it. But anyway, I'll probably end up getting on Amazon and ordering 2 more like I did with something else.
There you go. Spread them around.
If you do it right away, you can probably get them all tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, I managed to get by without it because I needed 2 bolts put in a spot that was really tight, and I couldn't get them in. So what I had to do was go ahead and slide the bolts into the hole, and then I took some painter's tape and put over that just enough to hold them where they wouldn't fall out while I set everything else in. And I'm not even sure I could have got them in with the magnet because it's a really, really tight area. Let's see. John says Steppers Online still has a kit with steppers and drivers. Power Supply just looked it up on their site. Yeah, they've got a lot more stuff, because they've got not only steppers, but they've got the closed loop steppers, open loop steppers. I think they've got servos on there as well. They've got all kinds of stuff on there, and that's where I always send anybody when they say, "Hey, I'm looking for stepper motors." I say, "Well, go get them there." And they do sell on Amazon as well, I think. So, let's see here. I'm reading through the comments. Mark says, any thoughts on the Nemo water-cooled spindle? Must have, nice to have, not needed for a hobby. I don't know. They're nice to have. The water-cooled spindle, I don't think they offer an air-cooled. I think they just offer a water-cooled. The thing about the water-cooled is, they're water-cooled so you can get much lower RPMs than you can with an air-cooled, because the air-cooled, you got to keep it going a certain RPM to keep it from burning up. But the water-cooled, also, you have to deal with some kind of a reservoir or something like that. I've had water-cooled spindle. Well, I still have one, but I'm not using it right now. But and they get to be kind of a pain, because no matter how clean you try to keep that thing, you still get gunk in it. And it was a pain. So unless you get kind of a closed system somehow, they're a little bit of a pain. And for a NEMA lattice machine, I guess it depends on what you plan on cutting and how fast you want to do it.
Wasn't it Jerry Brown that had a water-cooled one? He had it set up with a little radiator.
Yeah, that was Jerry Brown.
Yeah, that was a cool setup.
AKA Mr. Yarndahl here. I got the avid size extrusion, even found the connectors they used. I just could not part with it on the move. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you hauled it with you if you got it there, Jerry. All right, Ryan's got the link to Stepper Online in the chat there. That should be. He's even got the link to a 4-axis kit.
Yeah. I don't know if it was the same one that John was talking about, but it was the first one that I ran across.
Yeah.
Doug has an interesting question, and I don't know the answer to that. I would assume I would know it, but could you run a water-cooled spindle upside down in a router table? I wouldn't see why not, right?
I would think it would be sealed.
Yeah.
And I don't know why you couldn't.
But why
would you? I mean, it's it's an enclosed casing, and you've got an inlet and an outlet, so the water's just running through it. So it don't know
It shouldn't
whether
care.
it's on its side or upside down or whatever. But I just don't know why you want to mount it upside down on a router table. That's a little bit weird there. Kenneth makes a good point. You can MasterCard. You can download 3D files of almost anything, and he's exactly right. I'm talking nuts, bolts, socket head cap screws, all kinds of stuff.
You start putting those in your 3D model, though, it's going to start threaded bolts. It's going to start slowing down your 3D model. So,
oh yeah, it will. Yeah, you got to have some horsepower to run CAD where you're using threaded holes and bolts and stuff like that. Usually, I would just draw them up without the threads, and that way, it would still when it's there and you see the socket head cap on this side, you think it's a screw and you call it out. It was whatever it is, M5 by 16 or whatever. But you just don't put the threads on it because it just eats up your computer power trying to do that. All righty. We've had a lot of comments tonight.
Yeah.
I think
Ron was asking additional questions about trying to get the parts list, but I said that you'll have to verify which one he has and then email it back to him with your.
Okay, he says
Yeah.
He says it doesn't have these set of instructions, but you bought all the wood parts from Dave. Well, if you bought it from me,
yeah. So he was sent the plans at one point, but he doesn't have them at this point. So
yeah, you're one of those guys.
You'd have to.
I would
pesky delete button.
Yeah.
I said you'd have to check your records to make sure you know.
Yeah, as long as I can check, and I have records of everybody that's ever bought anything from me. So as long as I can confirm there is a good sale, and even when I find it, it'll tell me whether you ordered the metric, the inches in fractions, or inches in decimal, whatever, and I can send them to you. But do you still have the same email address from when you purchased them, however long ago that was? And give me an idea if
he has he says he has the drawings. If he has the drawings, he should have the that list.
Yeah. Well, unless he printed out the drawings and then deleted the file, but the file it's a zip file that I send, and it has the plans in whatever format you want, whether, like I said, decimal, fractions, or metric. And then there's also the other stuff, the parts list of how many size screws of this you need, and where to get the lead screw, and all that stuff. Like I said, if some of those it's hard to keep links fresh for 10 years or 9 years, I guess it's been now. So if any of that stuff's not good, simple Google search or Amazon, well, you probably find what you're looking for. All right. Yeah, Jerry says they had a radiator closed loop. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Nothing like dead air. So, Paul, what do you think about what we've been talking about tonight? I mean, you went the route your 150. That was your first machine, correct?
Yep, my first and my only. And the only reason I went with a manufactured kit instead of a do-it-yourself kit is I didn't think I had the time to mess around building a kit. And I wanted to, of course, the amount of time it took me to get my Infinity, I could have built a kit anyway. So,
Oh, right. Yeah.
but that's the reason I did what the way I went where I went. But I guess
Now,
it really, I don't think it matters which way you go. I really don't. And after having a CNC for a while, I can see the advantage of building your own. I really can. And I think, I think that's a way to go initially if you've got the time and you want to deal with it. Because
well,
you do know a whole lot more about them when you get done.
yeah. Well, I've been saying for a long time now that even the little 3018s that you can buy for, I don't know what they are now. They used to be around 150 bucks or so off of Amazon. Just think of that as buying a $150 book that's CNC for Dummies. Because if you get that thing, you put it together, you're learning a little bit about, okay, this is the X axis, this is the Y axis, this is the Z. And after you break a few bits and stuff, you kind of figure out a little bit about feeds and speeds and stuff. Like I said, just think of it as a very, uh, you know, inexpensive machine, but maybe an expensive book to learn about CNC, and
Yeah.
then after you know a little something, then you can just one, you can decide whether you think you're going to like it or not, and then two, you can probably make a better decision on what machine you want, because then you're like, well, I know what I want to make, I know how much room I have in my shop, uh, you know, that I can afford to give up to that, and that's now I need to pick the machine that will best fill that, whether that be a DIY kit or one that's, I guess they're still kind of a kit, but uh, mostly just putting a few sub assemblies together and going that way.
For me, throughout the whole journey, the hardest thing for me was learning Vectric because I had not dealt with any kind of design software before, and Vectric was a real challenge for me. And that, but now I know enough to be dangerous and get myself in trouble, but it is easier. And but yeah, that was the hardest thing for me was the software.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think,
That could be intimidating for sure.
yeah, especially if you haven't done that. For me, with my background of programming uh, big CNC lasers and stuff like that, Vectric was just super easy for me. Of course, again, I've been using it for a long time. It was version 4.6 was what it was when
Nice.
hey, don't laugh. I was probably, I don't know, 2006 or 7, something like that. But it was version 4.6 because I bought the bundle. I got VCarve Pro and Photo VCarve, which, I've used Photo VCarve and, I've had it for 15, almost 20 years. And I probably used it maybe 3 or 4 times. And even now, I think they've got something that's kind of like Photo VCarve built into uh, VCarve
Yeah.
Pro and Aspire. I don't know if it's exactly the same or what, but they've never, to my knowledge, they've never had an update for Photo VCarve. It was like they put that out there and it's like, yeah, that's not a seller, so we're not, whatever you got in that first thing, I think is what you got now if you buy it.
Fun stuff.
Okay, Ron says he has the drawings. He has the wooden parts. Oh, he sent me an email last week. I'll have to look. It might be in my spam folder or something. And he said he wanted imperial and fractions. Okay. Well, I'll look you up, and if I can confirm, you know about when you bought it, what year, that'll narrow it down. So, of course, my email, if I just search your name, it should find it no matter how old it is. But I've got all those records because of good old Uncle Sam. They like for you to keep records of
Yeah.
money you make. I don't know why, but they do.
So you can give them most of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. You made how much? Send it in. That's the tax form.
Right.
All right. Well, I guess to sum up what we've been talking about, anybody that would like to get into CNC, doesn't already have a CNC, my advice would be just do it. Figure out, even if you go on Amazon, buy one of them little 3018s like I talked about or whatever. You'll learn a little bit from that, and then you can probably sell that on Facebook Marketplace, and Ryan will probably buy it or something. So,
Could be.
I think the biggest thing for me is if you are afraid that you can't do it, don't let that stop you, because there's so much resources out there nowadays for, like you said, you have the demo board. There's just so much out there on YouTube that anything that you're going to come across with the electronics, or how to calculate the ball screw distance moving or whatever, it's going to be out there. So if it's just like you're afraid that you don't know how to do it, I just take the plunge. And I think I would start off with like a Ryan kit or a Ranger kit, right? Because it's some of the math, and it's been tested a little bit, right? And then you can still build your own and still do the experience, have the experience. So, but
and Russ says the Photo V Carb that comes with V Carb Pro is a slimmed down version of the standalone Photo V Carb product. I used Photo V Carb heavy in the beginning. Yeah, you did a lot of that work. Now, Russ, there never has been a new version of that come out, right? It just is what it is, I think. At least, of course, maybe if I was using it and opened it up, it would say, "Hey, you got a new version available." I just don't open it up. But, I don't know of any. But yeah, don't. I've said this. If you look back at all my old videos, and you've probably heard me say this a million times, building a CNC is not rocket science. Even the controller part of it, because, and like Bob mentioned, go to YouTube University. There is so much stuff on there, and just do this though. I will give you this little caveat here. When you go to YouTube, don't just stick to the first video that shows you how to do something. Go watch 5, 6, 8, 10 different videos of people showing you the same thing. And if you see that they're all doing things the same, it's pretty safe bet that they know what they're doing and it's right. But if you got one guy who's going off on a tangent on stuff and he's not doing it anything like the other guy, be careful of that one. Because you may let the magic smoke out when you go to fire it up. There are, there's always, YouTube's full of good videos and bad videos. So make sure you watch more than one and you go, okay, well, this guy's, and a lot of times when you'll be watching, Joe Bob Smith, and he says, yeah, I watched the video by Joe Blow over here, and he showed me how, so if he's referencing another video and you go watch that one and they're doing it the same way, you got it right. But the best video that I found for an idiot like me that didn't know nothing about electronics was My Robert Adams. And it's an old video now because it's probably close to 10 years old. But all that is still relevant. How you wired. My drivers over here are wired the same way. And any machine I wire from now on will be wired that way because I know it works. So, all right. Well, I guess we'll get ready to get out of here. I realize we've already been on here about an hour and a half. So, Ryan, any parting words for our viewers?
Special guest host this weekend.
Oh,
Mr. Ballard won't be there.
Oh, well, I can't wait to see
Mrs.
who
Ballard.
that is.
Oh, yeah, you better look and do who it is because you.
Well, it's a good thing you said something because I almost forgot.
Yeah. Mrs. Ballard got us tickets to go see a concert where all the headliners keep dropping out, and so eventually I might be on stage singing something. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, we already know you can play air guitar.
Yeah. I can
We've
play air
seen
guitar.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's something in Ocean City, Maryland, where these it's a bunch of like older rock bands. So like Motley Crue was supposed to be there, they dropped out because of some medical problems somebody had. And 3 Days Grace, they dropped out because the lead singer came out like 2 weeks ago that he has like some sort of like stage 4 bad cancer. Then was it Soundgarden or somebody else had to drop out from like medical. It's like, oh my god, like, they're all falling apart.
That's a bad thing about watching those senior bands is they might break a hip or something getting up to the stage.
Yeah. So it's there's some younger bands that are going to be there too. Van Halen's son, his band is going to be there, and they're very good. We saw them a couple years ago, and now Rob Zombie's going to be there, so everybody knows who Rob Zombie is. Which actually makes me excited because he's very good live. So, yeah.
All right. Well, that's. I guess I will tune in to Making It Up as we go. This Saturday,
9 p.m. on Saturday. So
9 p.m. Oh, I have to stay up late for that one. All right.
Good.
Okay. Yeah, it gets pretty close to my bedtime too, Dave. So.
All right. Well, we'll get her done for you, buddy. All right, Bob. Anything you'd like to say before we get out of here?
Nope, I'm good. Got to wait for that new video to come out for that Ranger.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see the chips fly on that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hope that comes out pretty soon. Paul, what you got to say for the?
If you don't have a CNC, buy a Ranger CNC.
There you go.
Thanks, fellas.
All right. Well, I guess we'll get out of here then, and as Ryan reminded me, come join me and the rest of his gang Saturday night. 9 p.m. Eastern, Making It Up as we go. And we will see y'all then. Everybody have a good one.
Hit the like button.
See ya.
Thanks for watching.